Hi, I'm Justin. Welcome back to Blender for Blogs, where we are using Blender to edit videos for our blogs. If you're tuning in for the first time, check out my YouTube channel, or you can visit my website at blenderfrenzy.com in order to catch up on all the previous videos. Also, if you haven't seen the video right before this one about strip mechanics, I highly suggest watching it before following this tutorial, because everything we will be doing here in our second cut relies heavily upon knowing how the strips behave in the sequencer when moving and cutting them. So with that said, let's get to our second cut. The very first thing I'm going to do is, you see we have our demo 0107 here where we left off. I'm going to Control Shift S to save as. Now I'm not going to do a plus here to 108 because I want to actually delete this and do a 201 because I want kind of a different version here. So hit 20 or type 201, hit enter, and then enter. And then I'm going to do Control Shift S again because I actually want 107 and 201 to be identical to each other. Now there's a lot of reasons why. I'm actually not going to go into those, but it's up to you if you want to do that or not. I recommend it, of course, because again, you always have something that you can fall back on. So I'm going to leave that as it is, and then I'm going to hit plus, so 202, and that's the one we're going to start manipulating. Now, here you can see we have our scenes. We have our original scene that we started with, where we imported our original footage. We have our first cut, where we cut out everything that we didn't want, which is on the top, and we left everything on the bottom, which is the stuff that we're going to keep. So and then we duplicated that to our cut 2, and then we deleted all the stuff we don't want, so that if we do change our mind, we can come back here and pull in things that we cut out. But our cut 2 here, now all of our cuts are in the same exact position as they were in the first video, in the same exact frames that they were. But obviously we don't want it to be like this. We want to eliminate all of these spaces here. So ideally, what we want to do is Shift left arrow, and we want to snap all of these to our start frame. So ideally what we would do, and I'll show you an example by selecting both of these, we would hit Shift S to snap it right there. However, if we select all of them by hitting A a couple of times to make sure they're all selected, and then we hit Shift S, it does snap all of them, but it snaps all of them individually to, let's see here, 0 to 0 then, yeah, all of them individually to the start frame. And that is definitely not what we want. We don't want them stacked on top of each other like this, obviously. So that's just a bunch of chaos right there. So Control Z a couple times here to where we have our where it was originally. So we have to do something a little different. And what we're going to do is use the backspace key. Now I'm going to demonstrate that by bringing the cursor over here, the playhead, the timeline cursor or playhead, whichever one you want to call it. Put it right about there, and then I'm going to hit backspace. And basically what that does is it eliminates the next space to the right of the playhead. But the problem is, if I hit Shift left arrow to go to the beginning and hit backspace, then it doesn't eliminate the first space here. So in order to get around that, basically, we're just going to have to select the first 2 strips here, Shift S to snap the first ones there, and now we can start hitting backspace to eliminate all of those spaces. And now, if I bring my cursor over here, hit page down to go to the end of the last strip, you can see the exact time of our whole movie. So our whole movie lasts 3 minutes and 11 seconds here. And you can see the number of frames that it takes up. So what I'm going to do while hovering over the timeline is hit E to set the end frame there, and then hit home to scale that all the way across the bottom there and scroll in just a little bit. And I'm going to hit home up here, and adjust it like so. Just control middle mouse button again. And now we have our full video with all of our cuts lined up nicely in a row there. So what we have to do now is to see if our cuts are smooth enough for our liking. So we're just going to have to go through the whole video to see about our cuts, but also to see if we want to cut out anything else. And this part can be a little tedious because you're going to have to watch yourself, or whoever you're editing for. You're going to have to watch the whole thing just to make sure. But get used to that, because you're going to have to do that a lot, just watching it over and over again. And I don't like watching myself, but I've come to learn to accept it because it's just the nature of the beast here. So shift left arrow to bring that front here. I'm going to zoom in with a box zoom, shift B to about here. And basically I'm just going to start going through.
Welcome to Blender for Blogs. My name is
Hitting
Justin.
spacebar to play and pause.
This is a video series that is all about how to use Blender to create amazing looking videos for your project, website, or blog. I will use Blender along with other completely open source software, meaning everything is 100% free. In this series, you will learn how to take your original footage like this, cut out everything that you don't want like this, and then remove your green screen.
Actually, that seems really nice. I actually like the flow of that, so I'm not going to adjust that at all. What I am going to do is hit Shift Spacebar to maximize this view, so I have a little bit more room to work with, and maybe kind of scale that down a little bit. All right, so let's keep going.
And then reposition yourself in order to show us that lovely, lovely view. That beautiful, peaceful, relaxing view. Or maybe you're teaching your audience something.
So I actually really like that as well. But let's just say you're working with something that you actually do want to adjust. I want to demonstrate how you would do that. So let's say we want to extend this out, extend that space out a little bit more here. So that after I say there's a little bit more of a pause. So let's just do that. So the way I would do that is I can't just select these and hit G and start dragging them. You see the red borders there. It's not going to let me. If I let go, it's going to seem like they just disappeared. Well, what happened is they were snapped to the beginning here, and that's definitely not what we want. So I'm going to undo that and come back down here. Whoops. Actually, zoom out a little bit. Actually hit home. What we're going to do is move all of these over at the same time. So I'm just hitting G and moving them over. But instead of hitting scrolling out, moving them over, hitting G, coming in here, zooming in, moving these, scrolling out, selecting all of them, hitting G and moving them back, there's actually a better way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to hit A to deselect all of them. And remember, we can come down here to select all strips to the right or all strips to the left. And we created those shortcuts if you followed the shortcut video. So Shift right bracket, it's going to select everything to the right of the playhead or the cursor there. Just like that. And then we can drag and move them just like normal. But I can also grab these if I hit Shift and then click on each of these handlebars. Now I can press G and drag out those handlebars while all of the rest of the strips are moved to the right, which is really, really useful. So I'm going to right click to cancel that because I want to be a little bit more precise here, and hit G, drag that out, probably right before it starts saying something. So about there. All right, so let's check that out. And we hit.
Or maybe you're...
Okay, so now I've done that, and I realize, oh gosh, no, I can't do that because I don't want to cut after I turn. I don't want to show that turn. So I want to cut right before I turn. So let's find a good spot. I think that right there, right when I close right before my head starts turning. Okay. So I could do the same thing. I could shift right bracket and then select these. But the problem is if I do this, I can't be very accurate because I'd have to hit G and then try my best to see if I can line those up like that. I can't snap them because if I try to snap them with Shift S, remember what they're going to do is stack up all on top of each other, and that's not what we want. So to get it accurate, so we don't have to guess and we don't have to it's so tedious. And I see a lot of people doing that actually on other videos where they're talking about the VSE and they're moving strips. They're just moving it and they're just dragging it and they don't snap them. And I was like, snapping is the best way to get it to exactly where you want it. So I know I want it on this frame. So I'm going to select these first and then hit Shift S to snap those. And now what I can do is if I shift right bracket to select all of those again, hit G, I can drag them and move them over these, and you can see there's a red border around these again. But if I click, it's going to snap it right to the end of those strips. I can also hit G, and then as I'm starting to drag them, I can hit Control, and that will snap it to a point of interest, snaps it to usually another strip. It doesn't snap it, unfortunately, to the timeline cursor. So if I come over here and I start dragging and then I do hit Control, it's going to snap it again to the ends of the strips. But if I'm over here like this, it's going to snap it to this cut right here. But it won't snap it to that timeline cursor. I'm not sure why. But this is useful if you have like strips that are way up here and you want to align it with these. Super easy way, again, is just hit G and then Control. And I know these are lined up exactly with these other strips here. So very, very useful. So I'm going to hit G, Control, and then right there. So now let's look at it.
Or maybe you're teaching your audience.
That looks pretty good right there. Another way you can do it is if, let's say you have a gap here. Let's just move that over just a little bit. Again, with my cursor, my playhead over here, I can hit backspace, and that's just going to eliminate that space. So it's just really up to you on how you want to do that. So let's keep going.
Or maybe you're teaching your audience something really important and want the ability to really hone in and demonstrate all of your teaching points. So in this series, you'll learn how to add words or pictures in order to do just that. And of course, you'll probably want to animate them by making them fly out, or fly in, or creating bulleted lists of all your important things, or other transitions like wiping in or wiping out. And you'll also learn how to
Okay, so I know that I want to put a little wipeout thing here in between these, so this doesn't need to be too smooth. So
your own motion graphic title, just like the one I started with at the beginning of this video. And who knows, somewhere along the line you might want to show some awesome footage of your summer vacation.
Now I'm just
you'll learn how to cut away
clicking with my middle mouse button and dragging this.
And then shrink it down into a picture-in-picture like this, in case you want to show two things at once. Or maybe you just want to go
That's pretty smooth too. I like that.
Show your audience exactly what you're doing on your computer step by step. So for this, you'll learn how to record your computer screen and then add it into Blender. And this is really handy for things like PowerPoint presentations, Google searches, or making all kinds of tutorials for your favorite software programs. Like Blender, Ha, okay. Just kidding.
So here, I actually want to eliminate this little blip in the sound. You can hear that. So I'm just going to select the sound, hit K to make a soft cut, and just drag that out a little bit there. And I don't think that's going to make too much of a sound difference. No,
Ha, just
that's
kidding.
perfect. So I can keep it like that. Oh, I'm going to save it here, by the way, save, and then save as an iteration. 203.
What I said was, did I make you check your sound? Be honest, you checked your sound, didn't you? We can't forget about sound, so you'll learn how to import an external audio recording into Blender and line it up with the audio from the original footage, just so that you can have better quality audio. So what's all this going to look like? Well, in order to teach you all of this, I'm actually going to show you step by step how to create this very video that you're watching right now. And
so that one was pretty good.
Quality audio. So what's all this going to look like? Okay. Sequence Editor, or VSE for short. You will learn the best techniques for quickly editing video and audio strips in Blender, cutting them, moving them, snapping them, combining, manipulating them with pinpoint accuracy to the exact frame and timing that you choose. You will also become familiar with how to
Okay, I want to adjust this a little bit here, I think.
choose. You will also become familiar with choose.
Let's do this. That. And maybe this too. Basically, I'm just dragging those out and dragging these out and just hitting backspace to eliminate that.
You will also become familiar with how
that's better.
To work around some of Blender's nasty bugs and problems that have the potential to get in the way and slow you down. So we'll cover those as we go. Well, anyway, I hope you're excited. I'm really excited too. So strap on your boots because we're gonna bootstrap this Blender brother into some video editing goodness.
Strange. I don't want that to be that long. Let's grab these, Shift S to snap those here. And I think that's good. So I'm going to Shift Spacebar to go back out of unmaximize that view. And I'm going to hover over the timeline, hit E to make that my end frame there. And this is our video. Now I'm going to save it. And remember, saving is, you have to click that. You can't just do Control S and then move your mouse away because it's not going to save it. So Control S, click. So that is how you adjust your second cut to the way you like it. You can also just make other cuts. Let's say you want to get rid of certain other things. Now, before you do that, you also might want to make another copy. So let's say you get it to where you want it here, like this. Make another full copy. Do cut 3. This is just, again, so that you can always fall back on cut 2 if you royally screw something up here. So let's say I want to cut here, and I want to cut it to here, and I want to get rid of this section. So just delete that, and then backspace. Or maybe I want to cut out a whole entire section here. Cut, and then backspace. So you can do it like that, and you think, oh gosh, that's too much, and I don't want to go through all the undos again. You can just always go back to cut 2 and either bring copy and paste from scene to scene, or just entirely delete that and go back to your cut 2. But I don't want to cut out anything else. So this is what I want my video to be. So we are ready to render this video. So let's go over here to our dimensions and make sure this is at 100% of our resolution. And go to output, make sure this says / renders. It's going to create a renders folder for your video. And then make sure file extensions is selected. Make sure FFmpeg video is selected from here, and make sure RGB is selected here. This is color and this is black and white. So you want color, unless you want black and white, of course, that's entirely up to you. So encoding, we want container to be MP4, a codec to be H.264, output quality perceptually lossless, encoding speed ultra fast, biggest file. Keyframe interval is 12 because that's half of our frame rate, frames per second. And our audio codec MP3 bitrate 192. Again, all of these are optional. This is what I've found to be work the best for me. Just remember that you don't want to make this file too small because you're going to be editing this video again in Blender when we remove our green screen. So make sure you make this, that you can even go lossless if you want. Lossless, and then ultra fast biggest file. I found that perceptually lossless works just fine, but again, play around with those. I'm going to hit Shift or Control S to save that again. What I want to do is actually name this file. So here we've got B4B demo 0203. So that's what I want to name that. So / B4B underscore demo underscore 0203. And then I'm going to do another underscore. And the reason I'm going to do that, and I hit enter, the reason I'm doing that is because I clicked file extensions. It's going to automatically add your frame range, so frame 1 to frame 4560, to the end of that. And then it's going to add a .mp4 because that's what we set it at there. If you don't put that underscore there, it's fine. It's not necessary. It's just that the frame range is going to be smashed up right against it. I just like to have a little space there. So I'm going to save this again. And now we are ready to render. So if we come up here and we do render, and if we hit this one, it's only going to render whichever frame that our cursor is currently at. So it's going to render this frame here only. So if I do that, you can see nothing happens. Well, something did happen, but since we kept the display at Keep UI, it didn't display anything. And we did that on purpose because we created a new thing, a new layout here for just rendering. Just rendering. Just rendering, whatever. So to view that, we can go here to render result. And there we go. There's our frame that we just rendered. And we can do that with any frames here. So, ooh, I like that one. Where was that? Yeah. Render and go back to our, yeah, that's what we've rendered so far. So we don't want to do that. We want to actually render the entire animation. So hit animation. And again, you don't see a preview because that's going to be on our other layout. But what you do see up here says sequence render. And if you hover over it, you can see the time remaining, which is kind of, give or take, is 16 minutes. So maybe 16 to 18 minutes. And then time elapsed, you can see 21, 22, 23. So it's just counting up, obviously. And you can see the cursor over here moving. So let's go look at our rendering preview. There we go. You can see there's the preview of every frame that it's rendering in order. Now the timeline down here still only shows 250 frames. I'm just going to hover over here and click home to stretch that all the way across the bottom. Scroll out just a little bit just because that's my preference. And there we go. Now we can see the percentage of the video that's been rendered up here. We can see the time remaining roughly, and we can see how far along the timeline we are just at a glance. So that's why I really like this setup here. So I'm going to wait for this to finish rendering, and then we can come back and look at our final render result in our media player. Okay, here we go. And as you can see, our video has finished rendering. And you can see after that last underscore, we have our frame range 0001 to 4560.mp4. And the file size over here is about 275 megabytes. So that's kind of for, let's see, how long was it? 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Rendered with our output settings here. Gave us about, for 3 minutes, it gave us about 275 megabytes. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Welcome to Blender for Blogs. My name is Justin, and this is a video series that is all about how to use Blender to create amazing looking videos for your project, website, or blog.
I'm not going to watch the whole
you'll learn
thing,
how to
but
record your computer screen and then
there you go.
strips
Just
in
click
Blender,
through it and see.
cutting them, moving them. Strap this Blender brother into some video editing goodness.
Okay, so
welcome to Blender for Blogs.
Now, so that's our video. So now we are ready. We have our video rendered for our next phase. So this is the end of phase 1, where we cut our unwanted footage out. So phase 2 is going to be removing the green screen and just keeping yours truly right here. So stay tuned for the next phase.